Hey guys, so with spring in the air and the flowers starting to bloom, I thought it would be a great day to try our hand at some very loose, very intuitive watercolor wildflowers and honeybees. Now this is going to be a real free-flowing style, so just drop into it and enjoy the process. I like to use some of these various size brushes. It really doesn't matter what you use, as long as there is a nice sharp point at the end. Here I'm just using some various size round brushes, a mop brush and a rigger brush. And I am just using watercolor paints that I had on hand that were relatively inexpensive. I will link them below. You can get them on Amazon. And some colors I already had on my palette. I've wet my Arches 140 pound cold pressed watercolor paper. Now I'm just going to mix up various greens. Here's a cadmium yellow, and I have a Payne's gray over there on the lower right. And there's no right or wrong here. I want various shades of green to paint my background, which is going to be just some distant subtle flowers. So I am just slapping the paint down, not putting much thought into it, as long as it's green. Even a little blue is okay, it doesn't really matter. I'm just trying to put together a really subtle, soft background. Now I'm going to start blending some various shades of blues and reds to come up with a nice purple for some background flowers. And I'm just plopping the paint down. My brush is nice and wet, and I'm dropping it onto paper that is still wet. And you will see these flowers just start to bloom. Some splatters, and I'm just going to drop in random purples and reds. It's still nice and wet, so the paint will continue to move. Putting in a little light blue. If you don't have a light blue, just use a darker blue, but very diluted so that it's subtle. And I'm just dropping it in, no particular order. Now I'm mixing up a little bit more of that green. I want it to be just a little darker. And while the paper's still wet, I want to start painting in some of those stems for the flowers in the background. There's really no right or wrong. Just try experimenting, mixing various shades of blues and yellows. And you can add a little bit of red if you want to get more of an olive color for those stems. It's all fun, it's all an experiment. Now I'm going to start working on the flowers. My paper has dried, and I am going to start coloring in, painting those purple flowers in the foreground. So I'm just taking various shades of purple, mixing red and blue, and using the purple that's already on my palette, and I am just blobbing in random shapes. The paper is actually pretty dry here, but I am adding water as I go to keep the paint moving and flowing. I'm doing light purples, dark purples, mixing red and blue, just very sporadic. Now I'm dropping in a little bit more of that light blue, or again, if you don't have light blue, a very diluted blue. Any shade, any color will do. And just dabbing that in as well, adding a little bit of water as I go. Adding a few more stems with the leftover green that was on my palette. And just connecting the flowers. Kind of like dot to dot. And I like to touch up into the bottom of the flower so that the green spreads a bit. Adding some leaves, just squiggling the brush around. Wildflowers have just really wild looking leaves. So just a little bit of lines and dashes and dots and squiggles here and there. I'm using a size 1 rigger brush, and I really like this brush for painting wildflowers, adding the detail. Now I'm going to go in with a light lemon yellow to begin with, and I'm going to just dab to create some nice yellow wildflowers just to break things up a bit. I'm just putting the paint on my brush and just dabbing around in kind of a scattered pattern here. Now, while that's still wet, I am going to dab in some cadmium yellow, which is a bit of a darker yellow, and it's not quite as transparent. And I'm dabbing, and I'm also dabbing in a little bit of water periodically, just to keep things moving. And after the cadmium, I am going to go in with a very light orange. Dabbing in some water to mix it all up, just keep the paint moving. Now I'm adding a bit of that green to the bottoms of these flowers, and it just has a very natural base. It's real pretty. You want to use very little here, just a dab, especially with delicate little flowers like these. Now, using that green, I will be connecting the flowers with a very thin stem or stems with a size, I believe this one's a size 0 rigger brush. Now I'll be adding some blue flowers on the other side of the paper. Same process, just dabbing. This is on dry paper, but I will be dabbing in some water. And these I'm going to make quite a bit smaller than the yellow flowers. Just going in different directions and no real plan. I'm going to go in with a darker blue. It doesn't really matter which blue, which color, which shade you use. And I'm just going to tap in a little bit of that darker blue just for some contrast. And tap in little bits of water, drops here and there. I am taking some Payne's Gray and I am just dotting in some of that darker color in the center of our big purple flowers. Splattering with some of that Payne's Gray, not too much. I am doing very loose style bees, the suggestion of bees. I like to paint in a very fast and loose style, so although I do like detailed paintings as well, for this one I'm going to do very loose. just a very fast and loose style. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did. Please be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Bye.